Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Macro Podcast. I am delighted to join with my good friend Zasha Smith today on the podcast. Hello, Zasha. How are you?
Aloha.
Aloha. Welcome. Guys, I am excited for a number of reasons to interview Zasha today. We've got a couple of great things going on in her world, but I wanted to first and foremost, has one of the coolest stories about before real estate and how you got involved, Zasha. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got before you got into real estate, what your life was like and what was going on?
Yeah, so my name is Zasha Smith, aka Invest with Zasha on all social media platforms. And growing up, I grew up here on Maui, raised by a single mom, lived in affordable housing, graduated from Maui High School, and ended up putting myself through college. And while I was in college, I didn't know what I wanted to major in, but I knew I wanted to help people. So I thought I was going to be a counselor and got a job as a counselor in the College of Engineering. And my boss was pro women engineers. So she kind of talked me into taking a few classes. And from there, I graduated with my bachelor's in civil engineering, moved back home to the islands, worked as an engineer for 10 years. And it really was just in that grind of 60 to 70-hour weeks on a set salary, in charge of huge, multi-million-dollar renovations of hotels, new build subdivisions, shopping centers, just construction plans and underground utilities for some pretty big projects. So it was really stressful. And my husband had his own business at the time, and we had 2 kids, married, and I was more of the one who was always at work and always tired. And when I got home, all I wanted to do was lay down. And so we knew that there needed to be a change that happened. And so one day I was just kind of Googling, like everybody else, how to get rich and quit my job. And I stumbled upon real estate, and it was so hard for us to just buy our home here on Maui and qualify, even though we were both making pretty good, decent money. And so I was like, how are all these people buying, other properties other than their home? They must have a lot of money or be, have connections or something. And once I found Bigger Pockets, I started listening to the podcast and really found out it was just, people's ability to leverage debt or leverage other people's money. So that kind of sparked my interest and got me started in it.
And Zasha, you really went hardcore into the fix and flip space there for a while. How did that? What was your first flip like? I'm just really fascinated by your background, and you started flipping and doing really well with that. How did that go?
So I decided to start flipping because I wanted to replace my active income. So I know with rentals, from my research, it took a little bit of time, and there was, a few $100s projected for each rentals you make a month, and that wasn't going to put a dent in my job and our cost of living. So I knew I had to start flipping. My first flip was a condo. So I found it was a foreclosure. I had started going up to real estate meetups, hooked up with a agent who wasn't scared to put in some lower offers and was an investor themselves. And so we had got that condo under contract. And for me, I just used it like I use common sense basically to figure out the numbers, which I highly don't advise, especially in this market right now. Definitely do your research, have your calculators, run your numbers very conservatively. However, back in, this was in 2019, I was just like, okay, I can buy this condo for 300. I looked on Zillow, things are selling for 475, 800. And I was like, okay, it can't cost that much to fix it up. I probably make a profit, but I didn't know it was going to be as much of a profit as it was. So it cost me $30,000 to fix it up, bought it around 300, and took 30 days for the renovation because it was a condo. You don't have to worry about any of the structural components. And it was probably about, I would say like 800 square feet, and then 15 days to sell to a cash buyer. So I netted 103,000 on that first deal in 45 days, which is more than I made at my job as an engineer working 60 to 70-hour weeks. So that was when the light bulb went off.
It's like, whoa, at the closing table, you're like, okay, I just did that, didn't I?
Right. I was like, oh my God, maybe I just got lucky. Maybe like I I think for me too, if it makes sense overall or like logically, I tend to just go for it. I don't need to know all the nitty-gritty details. And, even for me, I think the biggest thing was I had such a strong why. I wanted to be with my kids more often, wanted to spend more time with my husband. And I didn't want to feel drained every single day and just beat down. So I think I was I had so much conviction that it didn't really matter. Even if I only made like 5,000, it was one, proof of concept, but two, it was just that much closer I could get to being able to quit my job.
And Zasha, so after that, you decided to scale the flipping operation a little bit and really like, okay, this is something. What was it like scaling the flipping operation from there?
So from there, I figured out, after I did my first flip, made that money, it was towards the end of 2019. So when I did my taxes, my accountant was like, hey, like you got to start buying rentals to offset. So key too is have professionals around you to help guide you, especially if you are going to start in this journey. And, they always say, talk to a CPA, make sure you have a bookkeeper. So he advised me, hey, maybe for every flip, try to buy a rental or try to buy a couple rentals. And so from there, I started, kind of doing both and seeing, okay, what would it be like? So my first rental was actually a condo as well, because I like the fact, one, it's a quick turnaround as far as renovations, but two, you not having to worry about so much of the capital expenditures that come into owning a home, like a roof, the structural components, and then like, even like fixing the exterior were huge, and the HOAs take care of most of that. So from there, I ended up getting my next flip. And for me, it wasn't about, like comparing myself to other people who are flipping in the industry or, wanting to make all this money just to have like buy a Tesla or something. It was more so, okay, what do I have to hit in order to be able to quit my job? Like I just did it with one project. So even if I just get one project a year, I can replace my income. So that kind of was my goal. And then as I started to search for deals and connect with people, it became a lot more relational based. So a lot of my projects or fix and flip projects were referrals from other people. I was doing some off market, door knocking and driving for dollars, going to auctions and things like that. But my best deals, to this date, I've completed over 20 flips in the last few years. And some of my best flips, like my biggest flip I ever made was like 220,000 net.
Wow.
And that was from a referral from someone. They were going through pre-foreclosure. We got creative. We did a novation strategy where I actually just partnered with the seller. So I didn't even have to worry about, getting a conventional or getting private loans or hard money loans and having to go through the stress of that. But I figured they asked me if we could partner. I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure we could figure it out. So it went quicker than my other full renovation project. It was a 4-bedroom single family home, but it was in a really nice area. And overall, I think for me, it just has to make sense logically. If I'm going to buy a home and then the mortgage is going to be 4,000, but the most I can get for rent is 3,000, then I'll flip it. If it's, kind of breaking even or a little bit less, especially in Hawaii, because it's harder to cash flow here because things are so expensive, I might consider it as a rental, or how can I make this multiple units in order to actually be able to cash flow. So it all comes down to the numbers, and just in my expensive market, majority of the time, the only thing that makes sense is to flip.
And Zasha, you did something that was really cool. Not many people can say they've done this. You were actually on the Bigger Pockets podcast. How did that story transpire, and how did you swing that? That was really cool.
So I put it on my goals. So everybody, I guess prior to getting into real estate, I never really set any actual goals because I was already working. I got my bachelor's degree, was working my job, and was like, okay, maybe every, few years we'll go take a big family trip. That's what I'll save up for. But now being kind of like an entrepreneur and working for myself, I had to set goals, or every day be kind of, shooting in the dark or just putting out fires and not really having any real direction or progress. So I started doing things like the Intention Journal by Brandon Turner, where you plan out like a 90-day goal. I set my goals for the year. I did my affirmations in the mirror, even though it's kind of kooky and I never like did that before. I felt very kind of uncomfortable at first doing it, or like, oh my gosh, okay, this is like some hippies sort of things.
Yeah.
But honestly, it helped me a lot. So every year I would set, okay, my goals, like big goals. So big goals for this year were to, or last year was to get on the Bigger Pockets podcast, buy an RV park, up my passive income to $20,000 a month, like set big but make possibly achievable goals. And so I put it out there, and especially now that I'm have a lot of followers and have kind of become like a mini influencer on social media. People like to follow me, I don't know why, but also I just share it like a lot about my life, and maybe that and I'm genuine to who I am. I'm not the most articulate person, but I did figure it out. And so I feel like a lot of people find inspiration in that. But I like to put my goals out there because, one, like, maybe somebody can help me that, you never know who
100%.
can help
Yeah.
you. If they know what you need,
100%.
they might be able to help you.
Absolutely.
And two, it's like to keep myself accountable. I'm like, oh my God, I just put it out there all over the internet. Like, I need to do it now.
Yeah.
And so I have
Absolutely.
been reaching out to the Bigger Pockets team. Like, I applied to be on the podcast a bunch of times in the beginning of the year. So I set my goal in January, and then I kept getting ghosted. Nobody would get back to me. And then in I think it was maybe August, I had Brandon Turner had invited me to a kind of like mastermind thing at his house. Luckily, we live on the same island, so it's easy to just get there. But through my journey of wanting to connect with more people, wanting to put myself out there, which was very uncomfortable. I had got in front of some people like Brandon Turner. He actually came to one of our meetups here on Maui, built that relationship. And so when I went to his house, I think in August, he was like, oh, what are your goals? And when I was like, oh man, like, one of my goals was really to be on Bigger Pockets. And he's like, okay, let me see if we can, I'll put in a good word. And I was like, okay.
He might know some people that could maybe help with that.
But literally, I was on the show that next month. Like, they had called me a few weeks later and was like, oh, we had heard some good things about you and that you should be on the podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it just goes to show, though, like, the more that you put it out there, the more that you connect with people and network, but honestly are just true to who you are and what you want to do. There's people out there that actually want to help you achieve your goals, so
100%.
It's crazy to think that that the universe or the world works in mysterious ways. But also, I've been putting in so much action prior to that. It's just a culmination of things. What do they say? When opportunity meets
preparation meets opportunity. Really. Yeah. And I will say, it struck me early on. I think I had known you for maybe half an hour, and I was like, Zasha is one of the most natural go for it entrepreneurs. I'm the poster boy for analytical analysis paralysis, literally the all-time record holder probably. But anyway, but what really impressed me, and part of that thing about what you're saying about hanging out with people that can help you too, Zasha has a thing of just say yes, and also, and it really shines through on your social media too. That was another thing that just blew me away when I got to meet Zasha, and your ability to execute marketing and social media is really impressive. Like, the Instagram and your TikTok especially are some of the best I've seen ever. And that's just a credit to your execution skills. And it's just really fun to see.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Zasha, you really, and I think that's how we met, is you started to like, well, I'm really looking to get more into commercial real estate. And when you started that journey, I've got to say also too, this is another testament to Zasha. She doesn't do half measures. I'll just tell you that. Went all in and started getting interested in commercial real estate. Can you tell us a little bit about your commercial real estate journey and how that transpired from the fix and flip arena?
Yeah, so remember I told you my CPA was like, okay, you got to buy, a few rented properties every time you flip. Well, I ended up, kind of gaining momentum with the flips. And one year, I think I did 10. And some of these are on my own, some are with partners. And so he was like, dude, you need to buy more rentals. And it was like the last couple months of the year, for one of the years. And so I was able to buy 2, but it was very high stress. Like, I had to come out of pocket a lot of cash. I was able to refinance and I do the BRRRR strategy. But then the next upcoming year, I started from January looking, and I was like, you know what, there's got to be an easier way to do this. And I had connected with another guy, Chris, who is also from Maui, but he had moved to Utah, and he started getting into commercial space. And so he was like, hey, there's this Rise Club. I think Rise Club, and we teach other people how they can essentially, if they wanted to run, buy these bigger types of projects, how they could do it and how they could be a general partner. But we also offer opportunities to become limited partners as well, and then also negotiate for higher positions in these deals. And I was like, okay, but so what's the benefits? He's like, the tax, you get a lot of tax breaks. I was like, oh, right there. That's what I want to get into.
A tax.
So, right.
Yeah, and I don't think most people understand with professional status what that can do for you too. Being a real estate professional, again, it's kind of still sinking in. You're like, what? I can do what? Yes, and so literally turning pro, as it were, in getting that professional status is a huge help as well. Such an incredible thing.
Yeah, and so for me, I had been so inundated with these flips and really busy with that. I was like, okay, let me try to see what this whole syndication, partner thing is with these bigger deals. And I didn't have time to go look for apartment deals. And so I jumped into my first one in January. They said, hey, we have this out. Oh, boom. Like I just jumped at it. Like you mentioned, they're like, I was like, should I do it? They're like, yes. I'm like, okay, I'm in. And I got one of my K1s back from that one that I invested in last year, and I could depreciate. I put in 50 grand. I could depreciate 30. So that's a huge amount as far as for me, a high income earner, it's a lot. And so, and without, me having to find a rental, deal with the management, setting it up, renovations, all that kind of stuff. So that was really important to me. So I invested into 3 more of those type of projects, 100, 200 unit buildings. And there's in Texas and Florida, and another one in North Carolina. And so I just heavily relied on the team and that club of people who already had the experience, even being newer to the space. But they were actually very surprised that they're like, what, you're going to invest in this deal? And they're like, okay, well, like take a step back and make sure it's the right thing for you. Talk to my CPA. He's like, yep, if this is the depreciation you can get and you can manage, investing your funds in there, then why not? And so that was kind of the only words of wisdom that I needed. And like I mentioned before, I only bought a couple rentals last year. So I really needed that depreciation. And so now moving forward, it's definitely, I'm not the same like gung-ho like I was last year, because the market is shifting. So that's very important as well to realize. And we ended up, because I invested in all those 4 deals last year, I ended up really bonding and creating relationships with other experienced commercial real estate investors, and then starting a fund with them as well. So we are just actually tomorrow going to launch, have a webinar to launch our fund. We're going to do debt and equity deals. And so trying to just grow and not have to be in the day-to-day like I am still wrapping up. I think I have 7 flips going on right now. So keeping myself busy with those too. But I eventually want to be kind of out of that super active role. I love the end products, especially when I do new builds. I just started getting into new build projects, and those take a little bit for single family homes or small multifamily. But it still is really stressful, and I invest all over. So not only in Hawaii, I have a few deals in Hawaii, but also in Vegas, Georgia, and Colorado as well.
Nice. I'm partial to Colorado. We're going big on some BTR in Colorado ourselves right now. So we're with you on that. Also and I will put in a plug for the Rise Club also. Every Monday night, I've grown so much just by, and I haven't done any of the deals with the club, but just the networking alone with the Rise Club is, you'll get more than you ever put in. And trust me on that for sure. So, and I am very excited about the fund you guys are about to launch. Really, such a great group of folks, and really can't wait to support you guys in what you're doing there, because I think it's some of the best people in the business, and I really am excited for you guys.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Absolutely. And Zosh, in terms of one of the things I'd like to do more on the podcast, I haven't been doing this enough, and I love the mindset piece. The mindset piece is to me where the game changer is, and so legitimately learn from modeling you. Seriously, you can ask Andy. You can ask Andy. I said, how do I be more like Zasha? Literally said that. Just say yes. And so, in terms of mindset, how did you? What are you mentioned affirmations? Are there any other things that you did in terms of mindset that helped you? Conquer those, because there's always that doubt, no matter what. In entrepreneurship, especially, there's always a lot of self-doubt, and there's fear. How do you conquer those mindset challenges, and how did you overcome that?
I think definitely mentorships or being around other people in a networking setting. I think when 2020 hit, I was in Steve Rosenberg's think tank mastermind. And he really is like almost like drill sergeant status. And like, if he gives you something to do and you didn't do it, like he's going to call you out.
He's going to get you.
Yeah. So I love, for me, it's all about investing in yourself and your education, and your, along with that education or those groups also comes that mindset. It's like almost an automatic, because in order to achieve your goals or do that very important next step that will get you to that next level, it's like somebody kind of has to be there to push you, especially if you're holding back because you're scared yourself. So, I mean, the biggest thing is just surrounding yourself by those types of people who will hold you accountable. And then another thing is just having the support, of your family or the people around you. I mean, initially I didn't, and it was hard, but the more that they see me succeed, the more they supported me. And then also, I think, I mean, like anything else, your health is your wealth. So I started getting up at 4:30 a.m. Now I don't do that so much more often. But when I was really set on my goals and I had a very strong, like I wanted my life to do a 360. So I knew I had to do a 360 myself and do things that were hard or that I didn't want to do, but I know would benefit. So I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I would journal real quick, like, okay, what's my to-dos today? Boom. I would go work out because I hate working out. But I knew if I didn't do it right when I woke up, and
it wasn't
all
going to
the
happen.
day would get in the way. So I'd like to do it early in the morning. And then after that shower, get ready and then do the affirmations, finish up my journaling, and then really just stay focused and time blocked on what do I have to get done today, especially while I was working full time, because I had, 9 hours of my day already scheduled out. It was like, okay, I have this little piece here and I have this little piece here. Like I gotta be very efficient with that little time that I had. And so that really, waking up early, exercising, like fitting in those other things that don't have to do with work actually helped work my mind.
That's incredible, and a great book title. I've never actually read the book because I think it's self-evident, but Brian Tracy has a book called Eat the Frog. So do the very thing you hate the most. Do that the very first thing, because it's just like eat the thing you don't want to do the most first to make sure it gets done.
Yeah, and I
read
Miracle Morning and also Atomic Habits. I read those two to really get me in the groove of like, okay, why do I need to do this? Like, why am I making myself suffer and waking up this early? But it really, I feel like that was the biggest transformation in my mind, to be like, okay, I don't got time to mess around. Like this got to get done. And this is how I'm going to prep my, not only my mind, but my body to just follow through.
Yeah. Left to my own devices, I'll stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning reading. And I've recently flipped to 4:35. I try to get at 4:30, usually more like 5. But that super early, I cannot just describe the amount of day you get by waking up that early. So big kudos for the Miracle Morning is an incredible book on this point, and the things you can do. Big proponent of the book as well. I think the book was really right on point. Zosh, is there anything else any question I didn't ask I should have, or anything we should talk about that you'd like to talk about that we haven't?
I think to your point, or my biggest thing is people are, where do I start when investing, or how do I know this is a good deal, or whatever the case may be. You honestly have to step back and think of like why you want to do it. I can't stress enough, and people talk about your why and keeping that in check. Like even for me now that I don't need to be doing all this extra stuff or continue to build, I constantly have people in my life being like, oh, when is enough going to be enough? And for me, I just like the challenge. I like to connect with people. So it's not really about making more money, or, I mean, that's very much a plus, but it's also elevating myself. And so really honing down on your, like, why are you doing this? I think will help a lot of people. And then also, like, what kind of impact do you want to make while you're, striving for success for yourself? And so for me, my biggest thing is, building wealth while making a positive impact. So through my rental properties, I rent a lot of the ones that I own individually. So I have 17 units on my own. I rent those to people on Section 8 or HUD, or receive rental assistance. So that's how I'm giving back to my community. And then also my flips. If there is ever a time where it comes to a local first-time home buyer, or selling to a cash buyer, or like another investor, somebody who's just going to live here as their second home, I will most likely, even if it's a lower offer, choose somebody that is going to make have an impact on the neighborhood or the community. So that's another way you can give back. I think a lot of people, when they think of investing, of course it comes down to the numbers. You need the cash flow and the profits and all of that as well, but also keep in mind, like, how do you want to leave this earth? And again, hippie sort of vibes, but I think as I'm getting out of the grind of like, oh, I got to replace my income. And, after you get some momentum, actually thinking about, okay, what is the real reason, or what am I going to feel good about? And what is my passion? And that honestly brings me back to that.
Well, and I think so too. And it vibrated from, like, again, the instant you meet Zasha, there's a vibration, a positive vibe that will carry off. And I'm convinced the fun that you guys are, I know the group very, very well. You guys are destined to be a game changer in the landscape, because it's not just the smarts. The smarts is there, but the heart and soul is also there, which is why just you guys are destined for success. You deserve every second of it. So I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. And you can build wealth, and you can still be a good person.
That's right. You don't have to be Scrooge McDuck or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Or what is that, Christmas Carol or whatever. Anyway, we digress. Well, anyway, Zosh, how did they get, if people want to reach out to you, what are the best ways to get a hold of you?
Definitely Instagram is my jam. IG, Invest with Zasha. ZashaSmith.com too is my website if you want to find out more about me, more, and have more resources. And then, I'm on all the other platforms. LinkedIn as well is where I connected with Doug. But yeah, I mean, hit me up. Instagram is probably the best way.
That sounds like a plan. Zasha, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really enjoyed our time together. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Doug.